All right, so I think I might get started, even though we have still a few people checking in, but thanks for coming. I know it's a busy week to start studying, so I appreciate you taking time out of your studies to come here and start doing some prep for your short-term global experience. For those of you who I haven't met, my name's Katie. I am the Short-Term Mobility Project Officer, so I'm the person you would have been emailing back and forth with various things regarding your application, and I'll continue to be your contact throughout your process of going on your short-term program. My colleague Eddie in the back, she also advises on short-term programs, so you'll also hear from her from time to time as well. But basically this session is a short session to review just some of the tips and help you get started on preparing to go. I'll keep it fairly brief. I will record this session, so I'll send out more information later this week to give you a refresher, because some of you might be leaving in the next couple weeks, whereas other people might not be leaving until January. So you can use that recording as a refresher just to review things that you might want to do before you go. We also have a bit of information on our website. I also would have sent through our pre-departure guide. The session today is pretty much a presentation on the pre-departure guide. So a lot of the information that's in the pre-departure guide will also guide you through the steps that you should keep in mind when you're in the process of preparing to go. In that email that I sent you with the pre-departure guide, I also prepared some top tips, just a top 10 things that you should keep in mind before you go overseas. Okay, so this is just a brief breakdown of the application stages. For the most part, everyone is pretty much through the application stage, if not in the late application stage at this point, or preparing to actually go on their short-term program. I'll talk through a little bit of these steps throughout the session today, so if anyone has any questions, I'll open it up to questions at the end, but I'll also hang back in case anyone has any specific questions and you want to come down and speak with me directly. So we've been getting a lot of questions about certain parts of the application, and this is just a little bit of a refresher of where we are at by early mid-November. So in terms of your applications, by mid-November, you should have submitted your conditions of participation. That's via the online application. Mostly everyone's done that at this stage, and also submitted your host acceptance letter. If you haven't received your host acceptance letter yet, that's fine. Some host universities will take a couple more weeks to actually send those out. I will continue to send weekly reminders that we haven't received it yet, just to send a reminder to you. But if you haven't received it, don't stress too much at this stage, especially for those programs that don't start until later in January. As soon as you do receive it, make sure you upload it to your online application. This is our indication that you have been accepted into the program, and without that, we don't know that you've been accepted, and we'll sometimes think that you're no longer interested in participating. So I'll be in touch if you haven't provided it yet. The other piece of information that you need to provide to us is your travel details. So once you have your travel details confirmed or an idea of what your travel details are, you'll actually go to the online application and input your travel information, just the dates that you're traveling, where you're traveling to, what program you're going on, and also your emergency contact information. So this is an important step that's required in order to cover you for the UQ insurance, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about in a little bit. If you require a letter for Centrelink while you're overseas, you can actually request this from us. I've got a link here, but the link was provided in the pre-departure guide as well, so do keep that in mind. If you do need a Centrelink letter, basically you want to go to the Short-Term Global Experiences webpage, go down to Costs and Funding, and here we have the Centrelink request form. So basically you just need to fill out this form and let us know that you are wanting a Centrelink letter. It can take a few days for us to provide that for you, so try and get that in as soon as you need it. Once we provide the letter for you, we'll send it to you back in an email, and you can provide that to Centrelink. So at this stage, UQ Abroad and the UQ Advantage office have sent out a few notifications. We've sent out the notifications about scholarships, and I think just yesterday we sent out the notifications about the OS Help loan. Any students who are participating on a program on an exchange basis, which is not the majority of you are going on a study abroad program where you pay the fees directly to the host university. So basically anyone who's going to the Vienna January Law program, the Budapest Winter program, or the IWU at Kassel, you've been contacted about exchange enrollment. So I'll mention that a little bit more in the future, but if anyone has any questions about those 3 specific programs, just let me know. Also, I want to remind anyone, if you are applying for your short-term program as a not-for-credit student, you may be eligible for a UQ Advantage grant. The deadline, if you haven't already submitted your application for a UQ Advantage grant, is the 15th of November. Again, this is only for not-for-credit students. You may be eligible for this, so check the eligibility if you haven't already applied and submit your application by the 15th of November. The Advantage grants will be announced in early December, so submit your application by the 15th. Okay, so things that you might want to keep in mind in terms of preparing to go. It may sound quite obvious, but learn about your destination. A couple websites to help are Smart Traveler and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. They provide a lot of really good detailed information on international destinations and can give you a bit more specific advice. But other things that you may not have had a look at are the Google Maps. Have a look around your city where you're going, get a sense of what it looks like over there, guidebooks, things like that. Speak to other people who may have gone. I believe you're all kind of sitting in relative groups, so have a chat with the people around you, see where they're going. So just learn a little bit more about your destination. The majority of students who are going on a program are going to the Northern Hemisphere, and it is winter there, if you haven't already guessed. So it can be quite cold. So another thing that you'll want to learn about is what the climate is, and just be prepared. You'll want to think about that, especially in regards to packing and things. Some places that you might go are going to be quite different from what it is here in Brisbane. So in terms of travel documents, obviously you should all have passports, but one of the things that you want to keep in mind is whether or not your passport is valid for 6 months beyond your return date. Most countries have this requirement that your passport needs to be valid for 6 months after you plan on leaving. So if your passport does not have that 6 months validity beyond your return date, it is a good idea to look into renewing your passport and making sure that you get it back before you need to leave. For some programs, you may need to apply for a visa. So if you haven't already started the research on what the process is for applying for a visa, if you require a visa, it's a good idea to start that now. It can take up to 90 days for your visa to be approved, and the process of getting a visa will vary drastically from country to country, so do keep that in mind. Some countries may not require a visa. Depending on your citizenship, you may need to actually apply for a visa, and the application could be an easy online application, or you could actually have to go down to the consulate, which may or may not be here in Brisbane, so do keep that in mind. Also, if you are visiting any other countries or even just transiting through other countries, you may be required to have a visa or some entry permit of some sorts. So make sure you research all the visa requirements for the countries that you plan on either visiting or even just transiting through. So do keep that in mind. They will usually also have the same requirements in terms of applying for a visa and the wait times. So early planning is strongly recommended. We also recommend that you make copies of important documents, things like your passports, visas, bank documents, itineraries, host acceptance, arrival documents, things like that. It's always a good idea to have multiple copies just in case things get lost or stolen. It's a good idea to keep copies of it in your hand luggage, in your checked luggage, and somehow stored electronically, either on the cloud or on a USB drive that you have kept securely. We also want to recommend having a power of attorney signed in case you anticipate anyone here in Brisbane needing to sign documents on your behalf or help out in an emergency. It is sometimes a good idea to have a power of attorney, so basically somebody who can sign on your behalf. So that's something you might want to look into as well. Okay, so we always get questions about packing, and even though you're going to be gone for a few weeks, maybe 2 to 6 weeks, it's a good idea to really think about what you want to bring. These are just some recommendations in terms of what to put in your hand luggage versus checked luggage. Obviously, it would also include the clothing and stuff that you want to take as well. But basically, if there are any items that you would be extremely upset if they were lost, try to put them in your hand luggage, things like tickets, itineraries, important documents, passports, visas, insurance details, prescription medications, doctor's notices, immunization documents if you require those. It's always a good idea to have a set of clothes to change into in case your main luggage is lost. Also keep in mind that it should be climate appropriate. Any electronics that you might not want to get lost or stolen in your luggage as well, keep that in your hand luggage. And then other ideas of things to take with you, travel and guidebooks, you can put those in your checked bags. Over-the-counter medicines that you don't need immediately, you can also put in your checked bags. Journal, things like that, other things from home. Okay, in terms of financial planning, I know most of you would have already thought about a budget, how much your program costs, how much you plan on spending while you're over there, but it's a good idea to revisit this, keeping in mind that exchange rates will change. In terms of banking while you're overseas, we recommend that you have multiple sources of funding. And this is mainly in the event of if your bank or credit card company shuts down your credit card, or if anything is lost or stolen. It's a good idea to have backup options for funds, because if your bank shuts your card off, you might not have cash on hand or another source of funds, and you might need to contact your bank and get that turned back on. With regards to that, you want to notify your bank and let them know that you're traveling. Most banks will, if they see any international activity, they will either give you a call to make sure that it's okay for you to be making purchases in Germany or not, or they might just go ahead and shut off your bank card just to avoid any possibility of fraudulent charges. So it's good to notify your bank to let them know that you will be traveling and where you'll be traveling, just so that way they don't automatically shut off your cards. Large amounts of cash can be unsafe to carry, so think about what kind of funds you want to take with you, whether it be bank cards, travel cards, a little bit of cash, things like that. But ultimately, we recommend multiple sources of funding. And of course, if you need a Centrelink letter, please do request that from UQ Abroad as soon as possible. We actually can't provide you with a Centrelink letter until we have your host acceptance. So if you haven't given us your host acceptance letter, then make sure you give us your host acceptance letter before you request that Centrelink letter. And then another thing that you might want to consider before you go is a pre-departure health check. So just going and visiting your doctor, making sure everything is okay, making sure you just have a regular GP visit, just so that way if there are, and if you have any issues that might arise, you can have a chat with your doctor. It's also a good idea to speak with your doctor about vaccinations and health advice. Depending on where you're going, you might want to speak with a travel specialist. If you're on any prescription medication, it's always a good idea to meet with your GP, just so that way you can stock up on prescription medication. Also, make sure you have a doctor's note. Please also check that prescriptions are valid in particular countries. Every country has different requirements with regards to prescriptions, so you want to make sure that you're able to legally carry the medication that you have with you. So if you are on any prescription medication, please do some research in that regards. You can have a look on the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade website, smarttraveler.gov. This is a really good website, like I said. You can also register your travel, just so that way the Australian consulate knows where you are. If you're not an Australian citizen, you can usually register with your home country's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade or equivalent, just so that way if there are any emergencies overseas, they can refer you to consular services. But it's always a good idea to know where the local Australian consulate is in your location, and get a little bit more specific travel advice about those locations that you'll be traveling to. Okay, so insurance. Everyone always asks questions about insurance, and I will show you where the information is on our website, but basically anyone who is approved to participate on a UQ Abroad sponsored short-term global experience, it will receive the UQ corporate travel insurance. So this travel will cover you starting 5 days before the start of your program and up to 5 days after the end of your program. It's a good idea to look at the policy just to make sure that the policy is right for you, and that it will cover all of the things that you'll be doing while you're overseas. You can find the insurance information on the Short-Term Global Experiences website. Click on Prepare and then Health and Safety Preparations. All of the information about the UQ insurance is here. Specific details, even the policy summary. So you'll find the policy summary here. You will need your UQ login details to actually access the policy summary, but this will give you a sense of what is and is not covered. If you'll be traveling outside of that 5 days before and 5 days after, we strongly recommend that you obtain additional insurance, travel and medical insurance. You can have a look at the insurance provider that UQ works with and get an extension of the insurance, or you can choose to get your own insurance independently from this as well. In the travel insurance document, there is a really good checklist. They've recently changed. Here we go. This is the checklist here. So this will give you a good sense of things that you should be keeping in mind. One of the things that I do want to point out is if you have a pre-existing medical condition, you do need to complete a fit for travel report. This needs to be done a minimum of 7 days prior to your departure, but you can get the fit for travel report online here, and you'll send it to the UQ insurance office. So more information about the insurance plan is on our website, and you can find out information on how to make a claim if you need to, and what is covered and what is not covered on that plan as well. Sorry. Okay, so once you submit your travel details to UQ Abroad through the online application, basically what we'll do is we'll send those travel details on to the insurance office, and then the insurance office will create a unique travel reference number for you. Once we have that travel reference number from the insurance office, we'll provide it to you. That process usually takes about 2 weeks from when you send us your insurance details, and then we'll send you that travel reference number. If you require anything like a certificate of currency, which is a document that details that you are covered by insurance, you may require this for a visa or possibly for your host university. If you require a certificate of insurance, you can contact the insurance office and request one, but you need to have your travel insurance reference number. If you need to make a claim, you can do that through the insurance office. We recommend that you make any claims as soon as possible. Usually the insurance office gives you about 30 days to make a claim, but you'll also need your travel insurance reference number in order to make your claim as well. If you do have any questions about the specifics of the insurance, you can always contact the insurance office. Okay, so in regards to courses, I have a few notes here. If you are going for credit, make sure that your course is pre-approved. If there are any changes to the course that you had originally had approved, please do contact your faculty and UQ Abroad and let us know of the change, so that way we can have it reassessed. So please contact UQ Broad as soon as you find out if there's any changes. If you find that the university that you're going to offers a variety of courses and you want to change courses, if it's possible for you to do that, you can also submit in an additional request for courses to be approved. Again, students who are going on the University of Vienna January Law Program, now this is the law program only. I know there's a Vienna Winter School. That's not included in this. So January Vienna Law, Budapest Winter Program, IWU at Kassel. You will be enrolled in exchange codes. You all would have gotten an email letting you know what the process is. So be sure to read your email. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. If you decide to withdraw from your program after you've been enrolled in the exchange codes, it's your responsibility to unenroll in those exchange codes. Again, that only applies to students who are going to the Vienna Law January program, Budapest Winter program, and the IWU at Kassel. So if you are going for credit, you also need to provide UQ Broad with a transcript. You may have noticed on the online application that there is a section for you to provide a transcript. Some host programs will provide a transcript to you directly. That's fine. You can upload a copy of your transcript to the online application and it will be reviewed there. Some host programs will require that the transcript be mailed to UQ. Just make sure that if they request a mailing address that is for UQ, that you provide them with the mailing address that I have here. Once I receive your transcript, I'll let you know that it's arrived. But for everyone else who receives the transcript directly, you'll just upload that automatically to the online application. Okay, so this brings us to when you arrive on campus. Make sure you attend the orientation. Usually they're mandatory, so it's a good idea just to go, and that will help you get settled in on campus, give you all of the necessary information to enroll in courses, getting around your host city. Also update your address in MySciNet. It is a requirement that you do that. Also, please continue to check your UQ email. Yeah?
Is that just a changing your address? What if I'm going for like 3 weeks?
They still want you to change your address and then change it back when you come back.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a requirement. But they want, even if you're gone for 3 weeks, they want you to change your address. So continue to check your UQ email. If I need to get in touch with you, I'll contact you through your UQ email. You'll still continue to get emails from UQ while you're overseas, so please do make sure you check your email. For anyone who hasn't traveled internationally before, keep in mind that you should give yourself plenty of time to settle in, so either arriving a couple days early if you can, just to give yourself time to get over jet lag. Even if you're not going somewhere that has a drastically different time zone from Brisbane, it's still a good idea to give yourself time to settle. Also, keeping in mind culture shock, it is a thing. It's normal for people to experience highs and lows while you're over there. It's a good idea to just keep in mind that, you can always talk with people from home, bring some things that remind you of home, but also it's important that even if you are experiencing culture shock, to get out there and experience the culture of where you are and where you're going. Your program will go by incredibly quick, so do try and make the most of it while you're there. Also, please remember that you are still a UQ student while you're overseas. You will need to abide by the UQ Student Charter and any other relevant student policies. And we ask that you respect the host university, their regulations, their policies, their students, their procedures and things like that as well, along with the host country. Of course, if you have any issues while you're over there, you can always contact me. Our office will be open over December and January, but we will be closed from the 23rd of December until we'll reopen on the 3rd of January. If you do have any urgent issues while you're overseas, you can also contact your host university. This is why going to the orientation is important, because they will cover information about what you need to do in an emergency or if you're having issues. So another thing that we want you to do is share your experience. So as you'll see, there's quite a number of people going on a short-term program in the summer break, and that's mainly just because the short-term experiences at UQ have been growing exponentially. And one of the things that we use to help promote programs and to grow the short-term offerings that we have is yourself. So, take photos, jot down, what you're doing in a journal or a blog. We ask that if you are on social media, please share your photos with us, tagging UQ Abroad and hashtag UQ Abroad through the UQ Advantage office. We do have an Instagram account through the UQ Advantage office, so if you haven't already followed us, please do. We also have weekly UQ Abroad posts, and so we use your photos for those posts, so we could feature you in one of our posts. But while you're taking photos and journaling, take a moment to reflect on your experience. Like I said, it will go by extremely fast. So make notes of what you're doing, where you're going, because it will go by in a flash. When you come back, that's another thing that we have you do is your testimonial. Again, along with your transcript, if you're going for credit, we do have a testimonial on the online application. It's just basically a short request from us to write a little bit more about your experience, what it was like, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and basically any recommendations that you have. I unfortunately don't get to go on these programs, so I use your advice to help advise other students as well. So it's incredibly valuable. So you can do your testimonial on the online application. If you've received a scholarship from UQ Broad, we ask that you do complete one. It is required that you do a testimonial for us. And of course, when you come back, if you are going for credit, you must submit your transcript through the online application. So that is it for the official part of the session. If you haven't checked in with myself or my colleague Eddie, if you could do that, that would be great. But does anyone have any questions? No questions? Okay. Well, thanks for coming. If you do have any questions in the meantime, I'll be down here. Eddie will be down here as well. We can answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, get in touch.